Hey everybody, welcome back to Feedback Loop. I'm Joey.
And I'm Jeremy.
And last week we may or may not have promised you that we were going to listen to some German reggae, and this week we may or may not deliver on that promise.
Spoilers, I did listen to some German reggae.
Hey, spoilers, me too.
I think I ended up finding a playlist or something that had just a variety, but there were a couple of albums from that, or artists, I guess, from that, and songs from that playlist that I went and checked out their full albums on.
Yeah.
All around though, good vibes. Just
Hell
good
yeah.
vibes. It was weird, like, I feel weird saying this, but it kind of like, I don't know what I was expecting German reggae to sound like.
Yeah.
Like, it's just reggae, but obviously like sung in German. But for some reason in my mind, I was just like, it felt so bizarre to me.
Yeah.
It was like, because like reggae, to me, when I think of reggae, you think of Bob Marley, or at least I think of like Bob Marley, and like it's all like English reggae because that's all I've ever listened to, like reggae being sung in English. And I guess like bossa nova stuff, you can get some like Portuguese and some like South American stuff in there. But it was just like so bizarre. It was like, this just sounds like good, chill, fun reggae music just with a German singer.
Yeah. Like, that was so jarring because I was like, I don't know, because in America, the kind of our version of whenever we adopted reggae into like America's general musical lexicon, it kind of turned into like ska almost. Like it took a weird different form, and I was expecting something more ska like and then like reggae, but there was a lot that was just like updated reggae. Like, I mean, a lot of the reggae that I've listened to has been like Peter Tosh, Bob Marley, Toots and the Maytals, like stuff like that was like older and more I guess acoustic, but there was like electric stuff, but it's got a new sheen on it. Yeah, and this sounds more modern. A lot of what I listened to, at least, and I liked it a lot more than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, it was fun. Like, I don't know, I think I mentioned this before, but like listening to foreign music is such a joy for me because as someone who doesn't typically pay attention to lyrics, like I don't have to even worry about it.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we did take German in high school, so like I know some German, but I wasn't really listening for it, and I was just kind of enjoying the vibe of what was going on. So I don't know, I just had a good time. It's a fun playlist to just kind of like have on in the background and just kind of like vibe out to. Two albums that I picked up on my list here. One of them is called Neumud from Miwata, which came out in 2014. It's kind of got it's a bit poppier, I suppose. It's kind of poppy reggae, but it's that modern kind of paint that you were talking about. And then the other one is a 2013 album from I do not know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but it's Iripathy. I don't know. The album is Auf Wiederhören. I am horrible at pronouncing the artist name, but that was one that also stood out to me as just good vibes, just fun to listen to.
Hell yeah. Okay. You'll have to send me those because there's no way I'm going to remember those names.
Yeah.
But sure. So I also had two albums plus a little nod to Peter Fox because he's the OG. He's not necessarily reggae. He's got more of like the dub hip hop and like stuff. Also, he was in a band Seed with 3 E's that was a little bit more reggae that I like. But yeah, go check out Stadtaffe. My German pronunciation. Sorry, Mr. McRae.
Affe is monkey, right?
Yeah, it was like
fat monkey,
city monkey,
not like
because people said he looked like a monkey or something, so he did the. But that was an aside. My two albums are this guy named Afrob. I think that's how I would pronounce his name.
Afro with a B.
Afro with a B on the end, yes.
Afrob.
But he had like that nice traditional like reggae feel to it in his music, but it was like the updated modern version of it. And this was where I was like, I was not expecting German reggae to sound anything like this. But he actually had two albums that I liked because one was kind of a more acoustic one and one was, I guess, a more modern reggae. So the acoustic one was called Beats, Rhymes, and Mr. Scardanelli. And then the acoustic or the regular one was Push, which both of them are English titles, but he still sings in German, I guess. So that
Yeah,
was cool.
I wonder what the intention is there, because like obviously the American market is like a pretty big music industry market,
Yeah,
right? So like in some way, a lot of artists are shooting for an American audience. So maybe having your album title as an English thing is something to kind of lure people in.
yeah,
But I don't know if the general American population would be okay with being hooked in by like an English title and then being only like German lyrics or whatever.
yeah. That is plus. I mean, German reggae is a pretty niche thing. Like, I feel like
Right?
that's
Yeah.
got to be pretty like contained to Germany because there's not a lot. If we want to listen to reggae, we'll just listen
We
to
have
all
reggae.
the plethora of reggae that is in English.
Yeah,
Like,
but that's I mean, here we are though. We listen to
yeah,
German reggae.
very true,
So, and
very
it's something
true.
that we're kind of pushing for is exploring outside of your normal means, and we will be doing so next week as
Hell yeah,
well
we will.
with our topic that we'll bring up at the end of the episode, our
Yeah,
next
stay
genre
tuned.
discovery.
I
But
did have.
otherwise,
I had one other album.
go for it.
It was real quick. The album was called Mer Devon. I think it's two words, and the guy's name I'm gonna destroy this, but it's Nosliw. It's Nosliw. Like my brain can't even comprehend how to pronounce that.
Yeah, it's man, foreign languages are foreign, man.
Yeah, yeah,
It's so like it's so wild. I love language, just the fact that it exists, and there's such like a variety of ways that us as humans have turned sounds into meaning.
yeah,
And so it's so like bizarre and wild and fascinating to me. But that's a whole other podcast. That's not for
it's not even
feedback
music.
loop. It's not even for us to discuss here. Some other quick Rex non-German reggae wise. I've really been listening to the Strokes. I went back
Hell
and
yeah,
listened to their 2020 album, and it's just good vibes. I've been in a good vibes kind of headspace. And there's another band that I just discovered called Castle Beat, which has a similar kind of Strokesy feel, but their album art caught me. It's just like a CRT TV with like a teal blue screen sitting in front of a pink wall. So it's very eye catching,
hell yeah,
and it's got some good vibes. I also did listen to Death's Dynamic Shroud. I listened to Dark Life at your recommendation last episode, I think, and it's a very fun and interesting album.
yeah. I like it.
It's
It's
got some bangers on it. It's got some very weird shit on it, but
yeah.
it's all good.
It's just weird enough at times to like keep me interested because I
Yeah,
feel like unless I'm super in the mood for something, I get like if an album sounds too samey, I'll just be like, I've
right.
heard this song already. But that album, good or bad, does not have that,
Yeah,
and it's really nice.
yeah. It's really fun, really fun.
um, Rex, I really only have one, and it's that Pyle came out with a new single, "Nude with
Hell
a
yeah, dude.
Suitcase." All Fiction, I believe, is the new album title,
That
and
sounds
it's
right.
coming out February 17th. So
February
looking forward to that.
17th. We're gonna be talking about it.
Dude, hell
We're
yeah.
maybe we'll do like a full album episode like we used to for
Oh my
that.
God.
That'd be fun. I'd be down for that
Oh, I
just to
can't
see
wait.
how it lands with you and see how it lands with me.
Yeah, I really hope it lands well. The singles are strong so far, I
For sure.
think. At
For
least
sure.
varied enough that it's going to be nice.
Yeah. It'll be fun. Stay tuned about a month when you'll be hearing us discuss that maybe.
Hell
But
yeah. And also stay tuned for right now what we had talked about. Did we
stay
talk about this
stay
previously?
tuned.
Like,
I think we mentioned it. We weren't 100%, I don't think. Maybe by the end of the last episode we were. But we have a broader discussion today. Joey wanted to discuss his experience with getting into Radiohead and the general, I guess, barriers of getting into something that is so renowned
yeah.
as Radiohead.
It I don't know. This is going to be I guess kind of personal. Not
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
I'm
I
going
mean,
to be
everything's
like,
personal.
yeah.
You're discussing this through your own lens.
Also it can be taken as a cautionary tale, but we'll
No.
get to that at the end. So, I have been listening to just a shit ton of Radiohead lately, and it's just so phenomenal. Like, not to
Yeah.
sound like the typical Radiohead fanboy, but Jesus, like, it's just so unique.
There's
It's
a reason
so,
that it's
yeah, there's a
renowned, right?
reason. Yeah, there's a reason there's so many people that love Radiohead, and I do now. So, but like whenever we first came up with the idea for the podcast, it was like, I can't remember if it was late 2019, early 2020, but I just remember being like, we had a list of some like full discographies, some bands, and just stuff that either one of us or neither of us had ever really listened to. And I took that time as like a sign to listen to a Radiohead album. I listened to the Bins, and I remember I had like a really long break from work. I was outside. It was back whenever I still worked in an office, and I was just walking around. We had this little like plaza or something, and I was just listening to the Bins, and straight from like the get go, Planet Telex is the first track on that. At least I think it is. If I'm wrong, some Radiohead fans gonna like destroy me.
It
But
is confirmed.
okay, yeah. So Planet Telex, like from the get go, I was just like, this is like really fucking good. Um, and before that, I had like actively not listened to Radiohead.
Right. And
But
when you say actively not listen, you mean actively,
yeah,
right?
I mean,
It
like,
wasn't just like you hadn't taken the opportunity to listen. It's just that you were almost avoiding listening to Radiohead.
yes, and as longtime listeners of the podcast will know, I used to be that way about like a decent amount of music, I guess. I used
Sure.
to not like songs with or album bands with like women as the vocalists and just stuff like that. But so I was listening to it and it was fucking great. And then it gets to like the fourth track, Fake Plastic Trees, and now like I'm like getting upset that like why have I never listened to this before? Like Fake Plastic Trees at this point is one of my favorite Radiohead songs. Like, and it even breaks out into like one of my favorite songs, maybe in like the top 25 or something. Like it's high up there, but not like in the top 10 or anything. But it's a really
That's a hook. That's a tease of something you don't even know you're teasing that I'll be bringing up later.
my
It's this
top 10
idea
songs.
of like, yeah, your top songs of all time
Oh my
kind of
god.
a deal.
My manager asked me what like my favorite songs were because
It's
she's
hard.
really into music, and I
Who
was just like, it's like, don't ask me that question. Like,
favorite songs? Like
yeah,
that is way too specific.
yeah. I was like, here's a band that I like, and you could do with that what you will.
Yeah, yeah, or an
But
album, maybe.
yeah, but so I was listening to it. I was more and more growing frustrated with myself that I hadn't listened to Radiohead at that point before then, and listening to Radiohead so much now kind of made me think about that feeling and think about like what my barriers were to getting into Radiohead, the reason that I was actively not listening to them
Right,
before then. And I think my problem with getting into Radiohead was a problem that I had with a lot of other bands, but like it didn't have the impact that Radiohead did because whenever I did finally get around to listening to the other bands, they didn't hit the same way
right.
that Radiohead did, of course. But it happened with a lot of bands, and if Radiohead hit that way, plenty of other bands could have that I glossed over because of my attitude.
Yeah,
And like as anybody who listens to the podcast knows, I used to be a rock and metal like purist and snob, really, just for no fucking reason.
I mean, that's what
And
teenagers do.
it is. And my cautionary tale today is really for teenagers and people who are like, not that there's any teenagers listening to this
Yeah, and if
podcast.
they were listening, they would not take our advice.
Exactly. And that's the problem. We can give all the advice we want, but nobody who's in this situation, I wouldn't have taken it. I would have heard
Exactly.
us and been like, fuck you. Like, I'm living my life. But so I don't know. I just if at that point in my life, if it wasn't heavy, I wasn't listening to it. I liked stuff that like sounded hard to play, but I still also tried to like, I guess, play to this deep side of me where I was like, but if it sounds too technical, it sounds like robots playing and it needs
Right, yeah,
emotion.
yeah, yeah.
But like
You wanna find something you wanna be unique, right?
exactly, I
You
wanted to
don't
be
wanna, like
unique.
you don't want to be an extremist in any one direction,
Hmm.
right? Because that's where the sheeple are, you know?
Yeah,
That's where
exactly. They're
everyone
just
else is, and if everyone else is there, then it's because they're sheep. It's not because they enjoy the thing.
But the thing about that is, in doing that, you are a sheep as well.
For sure.
Because you're just
Teenagers don't think about that extra level, though.
exactly. Because, like, that's literally, like, word for word what I wrote right after this in my little notes. I was like, I like to think that my tastes were unique, when in reality they were so heavily defined by the people around me, by what I thought of people. Like, I was thinking too much about what I thought people would think about me
Right.
when they heard my music. And it was
Right.
like, it was all an act. It's all like a MySpace page where you're like, here's my top 8 songs or
For sure.
whatever.
For
Like,
sure.
and it was so much like the feeling whenever you pull up next to somebody at like a stoplight and you hear their music through their window, and it's like the 14-year-old me was like, they're gonna hear my song and think like, oh shit, who's that guy next to me?
I still do that. There's no shame in that. I love driving around with my music blasting. I don't give a fuck who hears.
But
And
you are at a point in your life where you're secure with your music taste, and you wouldn't let necessarily that feeling stop you from listening
right. Yeah,
to,
no, I would blare some fucking Paramore. I'd
yeah.
blare some Taylor Swift maybe if I was super into it. I I do think you're kind of like you're all over what I had written down
Hmm.
to discuss in this episode, and the root there, I think, is context. Right, the
Yeah.
context in which you hear something is important, and if you're in an environment or in a headspace or in like a very like a physical like area or a time in your life, whatever it is, like there's context that'll help, I guess, inform your attitude or your perspective on a certain thing. And that's fluid, right? That changes every minute of your life. The
Yeah.
context, how you're feeling is moving. But there's also on like another layer of context. There's the context. This is something that I was thinking of. The context for the culture in which the music was created is also like just as important. And I mean that in the way of if you are not like fully like aware, I guess, of why hip hop exists or why a certain genre or style of music exists, then you're just like you're at a disadvantage for getting into it,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't have a good understanding of everything surrounding the music other than the music itself. And I think that to an extent is why there's like a generational gap, right? Older people like, oh man, music nowadays sucks, and
Hmm.
we are now at the age where we can say, man, music nowadays sucks. But it's just because we're so far removed, right? We're
Yeah.
not in that culture that the artists and musicians are that are creating things, and
Yeah.
like it's easy for us to dismiss Zoomers, but they're just fucking people the same way we were just fucking people
Yeah.
listening to music that we enjoyed.
They're the exact same as us.
Yeah.
Like, and part of my cautionary tale was to try to talk people out of, I guess, being in a headspace that I was, where you're like so obsessed with the image of how you look listening to music
Right.
that you don't, because I would see Radiohead fans and I'm like, because as we said before, they're like, there's a bunch of rabid Radiohead fans,
They're all
rightly
hipsters.
so,
They're all
as
weird
I now
hipsters.
know. Yeah, they're hipsters, and that's the vibe they gave off, and I was like, that doesn't fit my metalhead
Right. That's not your
vibe.
persona.
And like that, I guess that was the cautionary tale I was talking about, is don't become that person. Don't become so obsessed with how other people are going to view you, or don't become so pigeonholed into one genre. Be
Yeah,
open.
I think there's more to it than your attitude, obviously. Like obviously I agree with what you're saying. You shouldn't exclude yourself from enjoying something because of what you think people will think of you for doing such a thing. But it's also like it's kind of intimidating, right? In the case of Radiohead, where so many people talk about it and the way they talk about Radiohead
Yeah.
is just like it's super intimidating to quote unquote get into like an existing niche or subgroup And so there's this kind of like natural reaction that's like, well, okay, if I can't just like step into this and be part of it because I'm kind of cautious and I don't have that context, right? Then you kind of naturally just want to like push it away. Just like
Yeah.
get away from me. Like just dismiss it. And I think that is enhanced in like teenagers specifically because there's that rebellious nature, right?
Yeah.
There's this need to push back against what other people suggest because other people aren't you and you need to have your own identity, right? And so like if you like something that everyone likes, then you're not an interesting character anymore. And I think while that is very like true and like there's a kernel there that like I struggle with my identity a lot. I struggle with how much of me is me and how much of me is everything else. But I also feel like in my particular case, I find it so easy to like push back against things that people are super excited about. And I think to some extent it's because I don't feel that excited about anything.
Yes.
So that when somebody expresses that, like, which is good, it is good to be excited for things.
It's
It is a
one of the best
positive
things.
emotion, and I'm jealous, I think, to some extent, but it just feels like so like completely fake to me if
Mhm.
someone is so overly excited and it kind of feels like it's a cry for attention in itself of being just like, I don't know, so overwhelming. And I actually have an example. This is kind of my tangent,
Do it. Tangent.
and it's about super fans. Skrillex has a new album coming out this year. Maybe two, I think. I don't know. I'm pretty pumped for that album.
Yeah.
But I was looking at a YouTube comment on one of his videos. He released a video with Bobby Raps called Leave Me Like This for, I think it's a single for one of the new albums. But there was this comment on it, and it kind of tied into our discussion of barriers and specifically with this rebellious nature, I guess, and people being excited pushing me off of things. But this comment says, "This sound is a game changer. When it comes to writing, I'm usually a pretty expressive person, but this is so good that it doesn't even make any sense. His new album is already in my top 5 and it's not even out yet.
Oh
What the
my
fuck do I
god.
even say?" So like reading stuff like that
Yeah.
is just, it makes me roll my eyes so hard that they fall out of my fucking head.
Yeah.
Because it's
Oh
like,
god.
I get it, you're excited for the album, and I'm excited for the album too. But you are so like melodramatic about it
He
right
sounds like
now.
a PR guy.
Yeah, saying it's already in his top 5 and the album's not out yet. Like putting it in your top 5 albums of all time,
Yeah.
an album that
No,
you have
that's
not heard,
I've
is
heard one
so,
song from.
it's so absurd to me. And I think that just like it hits ridiculous levels for me,
Mhm.
and I don't take my music to ridiculous levels, I guess, in my mind. Like obviously if I love something, I fucking love it. But it's just so like over the top. And I feel like super fans, whether it's for Skrillex or for Radiohead, have a tendency to kind of push people out because nothing can be that good,
Yeah.
right? If all you're hearing is other people saying that like, dude, Radiohead is the best fucking band in the world, and that's all you're hearing about Radiohead, then you're going to go in kind of ready to roll your eyes, be like, okay, it's good, but like chill the
It's
fuck
not
out,
that
guy.
good. Yeah.
Right, right. And I can't say that Radiohead isn't that good, right? Because like I said, there's usually a reason why people are that way, right? If so many people are in agreement about Radiohead being the best band, then there's something there,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't necessarily have to be everyone's favorite, but there's something there
There's at least
that I think
something
is
there that
exciting.
makes a lot of people like them. Like,
Yeah, for sure. I think with Radiohead, I haven't gotten in to Radiohead, and I think I'm kind of just, I've dipped my toes in a few times. We've talked about it on the podcast a couple times, and on my trip home over the holidays, I listened to In Rainbows, which is, it's my Radiohead album at this
yeah.
point. It is the one album that I consistently listen to from Radiohead. I tried listening to Kid Amnesiac, which is the double album, I guess, package that they did, and I didn't make it through all of it. I tried listening to The Bins, and The Bins was interesting. I knew it was your favorite album
Yeah, I
by
like it.
them. It felt strange. There's a flow to that album that I wasn't necessarily expecting, and it started out in kind of like a low point for me where it's like, okay, it's fine, it's acceptable, but I kept listening to it. I kept it on. It didn't change. And then at some point, I don't remember, third track, fourth track in, maybe with High and Dry or Fake Plastic Trees, it felt like the album kind of turned. It kind of went somewhere. And so I was like, okay, I understand this, but I'm not in the right space for it. So I did end up turning off that album. So the
Oh,
only
come on.
album I have made it through of Radiohead is In Rainbows. But I'm so close. I'm so close. I just need a little bit more of a push. I need to take another step back in. I think I will be there soon.
Tell me you at least made it to My Iron Lung. Like you
I
had
don't
to have.
know. I don't remember the titles. I wasn't like looking at the album titles. I was on a plane, so it was just kind of like I had
It's
it
such a
on.
good riff. It's such a good like opening riff. It's one of the best intros. Like it's just so
Of
good.
all time.
Of all time, top 5.
Top 5. Man, that's so wild. We should do an episode where we nail down our top 5 songs
That's
of
gonna
all
have to come
time.
out like 2 years from now.
It took a lot of thought to do, but we should do that for sure.
But man, so I guess I don't know. There's a lot of barriers and a lot of context that can go into hearing music for the first time, and if nothing else, just take away from this that like at least be cognizant of it and
Right.
try to not have those happen, because enjoying as basic me says, liking things is great.
It is.
Why wouldn't you just like things?
Yeah.
Because it's great to like things, and I like liking things.
The
And
more things you can like, the happier you'll be.
exactly. Like, so just try to like everything and at least give everything a shot. But I guess with that, something else that I was thinking about, I guess as I was having this revelation, is that so I kind of rejected a lot of music. I rejected Radiohead mainly is like my example in this, but it happened with a lot of other bands.
Sure.
But
I reject
I
Usher on a daily basis.
yeah, but that's okay. Like it made me think that maybe even if I had given it a shot and I had this idea in my head then that like, well, you know what, I'll give it a shot anyways, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much as I like it now, because
Yeah.
now that I'm genuinely more open to it, maybe forcing yourself to be more open to something isn't necessarily the best way to go about it. But if you can, I feel like I'm at a point in my life now where I'm genuinely open to a lot of things.
Mhm.
And maybe if I would have adopted this mindset earlier, maybe it could have come sooner, and maybe I could have been at the point I'm at in my life now of earlier. I
I
don't know.
mean, I feel like it's natural, right? There's teenagers are going to be teenagers, right? There's us saying like just be open, right? They're gonna hear that a million times and they're gonna roll their eyes every single time
Yeah,
and do their own thing because that's part of growing up, right? Is finding out who you are
yeah,
and who you aren't, and you have a lot of ideas about that as a teenager, and a lot of that revolves around impressing other people, unfortunately, and there's not a
yeah.
lot that you can do about it. But
Also,
yeah.
just be open is essentially, if you say that to a teenager, that's the same as saying like just exercise to a person that's depressed.
Exactly,
Like
right, it's
just go
not
outside.
something they're gonna do. It's
Yeah,
not everything in the world is easier said than done. There's
yeah,
nothing that you can do easier than you can say you did. But be open, teenagers. Open the
yeah,
fuck up, man.
yeah.
It's okay to
Just
smile and enjoy something, even if other people enjoy it, and especially if other people hate it. You know,
yeah.
it's okay on both sides of the pendulum.
Then
Just
you know you're
enjoy
really
things.
cool if you
Yeah.
like things other people's hate.
All right, you're ushering in another generation of black metalheads. I respect it.
Oh Jesus, please no.
But no, I mean, I think it is good to be open, but there is growth that is required. Like, as you get older, you will get more open and you'll have more knowledge, and the context with which you will be listening to things is broadened, I guess, to some degree. So it's you can't force someone to grow up. You can say, man, I wish I was more open as a teenager, but you as a teenager would not wish that you were more open, and
definitely
it's
not.
just kind of part of it, man.
I was concerned about I wasn't concerned about anything but like 2 things when I was a teenager, and being open was not one of them.
Yeah. Being open's hard.
Yeah.
It requires some sort of like vulnerability to just be able to like exist without fear of judgment.
Yeah.
Which is not something that most teenagers can do. And if you are a teenager listening and you feel like you're completely open, good for you, man.
Yeah. And if you feel like you're not, also good for you. You're just
trying.
You're surviving. Like, I'm not gonna shame anybody. Like, just I went off the fucking rails when I was a teenager. Like, I was not the person. Yeah.
But that context helps you inform your tastes now, I think.
Yeah.
To some degree. And it all comes around. It all comes out eventually.
Well, what's our genre for next week, Jeremy?
Our genre for next. Sorry, I was burping for those who could not see, which is literally anybody other than Joey. The genre Joey has selected for us to dive into next episode. Next fortnight. We have not said fortnight this season once, I don't think.
Fortnite.
Next fortnight, we will hit. Speaking of Zoomers, hey Zoomers, let's 1v1. I don't know what to say about Fortnite because I don't
play Fortnite.
Shit. The genre that Joey has selected for next week is Puerto Rican metal.
Kind of like New York metal, but Puerto Rican.
It's like New York death metal, but it's foreign and it's not as specific.
Yeah.
Because metal can be everywhere. So we're going to be listening to some more foreign music. I love it. We're going to find some Puerto Rican recs for metal. If you guys have some recs for Puerto Rican metal or for anything, honestly, just send it our way. We'll listen probably.
Or if you're just Puerto Rican and you feel like
if you wanna guest on our episode, just a random person listening, just let us know. It's good to have opinions.
Yeah.
Teenagers, listen to other people's opinions, even if you don't agree with them. It's good.
Same goes for everybody. That should just be that's a universal rule.
Yeah, that's true. It's something we can all be better about, I think. But we should all 100% stay on our feedback loop.
Bye.